All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We are looking at a truly bizarre, totally fascinating day 2 of the Leeds Test match between Pakistan and England. This was one of those days where expectation completely defied reality. We're going to deconstruct exactly how a script that seemed practically written for tearaway fast bowlers got completely flipped on its head by an incredibly unlikely hero.
Right off the bat, you have to ask yourself the core paradox of the day. How on earth does a lone spinner end up doing all the heavy lifting in conditions tailor-made for pace legends? It's a baffling scenario, but as we break down the day's play, you'll see exactly why this became the absolute defining storyline of the match.
You know, it's the ultimate expectation versus reality situation. The sources emphasize that the setting at Headingley was a fast bowler's absolute dream. You've got the Duke's ball dark, heavy clouds, it should have been a bloodbath. But the execution, a total nightmare. Instead of seamers ripping through the English batting lineup, it was the spin department that had to step up and salvage the whole shebang.
Okay, moving to part 1, the Pace Paradise Mirage. Let's establish exactly what the bowlers were working with out there.
Imagine a milkshake of legendary fast bowling environments. That's literally how the sources describe it. You had cool temperatures hovering around 14 to 17 degrees Celsius. You had a massive rain delay that kept the covers bolted down from 8:30 p.m. the night before right up until 1:45 p.m. Significant moisture on the pitch. I mean, it was the perfect storm to make that Duke's ball dart around.
Now, take a look at this stark numerical contrast. Impartial analysis of the stats shows the Pacers just leaking runs left and right. Khurram Shahzad was going for almost 6 runs and over. But then, look at the bottom. Spinner Ali Usman bowled the most overs of anyone, 23 of them, and picked up an astonishing 5 wickets.
Which brings us to part 2, fast bowlers falter. Let's break down how the pace attack ended up with those dismal numbers.
The sources are highly critical here, and for good reason. The Pacers completely failed to maintain any sort of consistent line or length. Instead of hitting that crucial corridor of uncertainty, you know, that tricky little area just outside off stump that forces a batter to make a split-second decision, they just kept drifting down the leg side or offering up excessive width. Toss in a shocking lack of discipline, like Khurram Shahzad bowling 5 no-balls all by himself, and all that beautiful swing was just wasted.
But hey, the bowlers didn't fail in a vacuum. Part 3, fielding woes and errors. The chaos was contagious.
The frustration out there was palpable. You had a totally missed appeal for a clear, thick edge from Jordan Cox that wicketkeeper Mohammad Rizwan barely even reacted to. There was comical ground fielding. Actually, ironically enough, even our hero Ali Usman got in on it, accidentally kicking a stopped ball straight into the boundary. There was just a general, draining lack of on-field energy. But one mistake absolutely towered above the rest.
91 runs. That is the massive, painful price Pakistan paid after Harry Brook was dropped at first slip by captain Salman Ali Agha. And remember, Brook was on a score of just 1 when that routine catch went down. Ouch.
All right, let's pivot to the hero of our explainer today. Part 4, Ali Usman's Masterclass. The man who brought discipline to the absolute chaos.
Despite the total pace and fielding collapse happening all around him, Ali Usman delivered a phenomenal 5-wicket haul. He essentially strapped the entire bowling attack to his back and carried them, securing a brilliant, gritty fighting performance when literally everything else was falling apart.
What's wild is that sources point out Usman's success wasn't about massive, unplayable spin. He was barely getting 1 to 1.5 degrees of turn off the pitch. But he calculated his skill set perfectly. He recognized his limitations, and he just stubbornly hit the exact same spot over and over again. Even when the English batters were easily rotating the strike with singles, he never let it break his focus.
So how did he do it? Part 5, Deconstructing the Wickets. Let's look step by step at how he dismantled England.
First, he broke that massive partnership by confusing Jordan Cox with his length, resulting in a catch behind. Next, he snatched Dan Lawrence. Then for the extremely dangerous Harry Brook, Usman bowled him straight through the gate, just exploiting that tiny gap between bat and pad. Followed that up by trapping Gus Atkinson plumb LBW, and rounded the whole thing off by bowling Ollie Robinson out on his very first delivery. Just incredibly clinical stuff.
And that brings us to the Robinson dismissal. Pitched perfectly on middle and off, broke just a fraction to clip the off stump. It was so perfect that sources dubbed it the ball of the day. Let that sink in.
In a match entirely dominated by pace expectations, it was a spinner who delivered the absolute ball of the day.
Impartially reporting from the sources, though, we do have to note that Usman was kind of fighting an uphill battle against his own team's tactics, too. During a crucial pressure-building spell, Captain Salman Ali Agha pushed long off-back. It was a highly defensive field placement that allowed the batters to take easy singles, basically releasing all the tension Usman was working so hard to build.
So what should we take away from all this? Part 6. The steep road ahead.
195. That is the sheer mountain Pakistan has to climb. That's England's massive lead, standing at 366 for 8, all in direct response to Pakistan's dismal first innings total of just 171.
The reality is steep. The weather forecast predicts bright sunshine, meaning the pitch is going to dry out. Pakistan's batting order has to achieve something monumental. To even set a competitive target of 200, they need to score somewhere in the ballpark of 450 to 500 runs in their second innings. The pressure is completely on the senior batters, Imam, Salman, and Rizwan, to pull off a miracle.
Sources highlight a pretty harsh critique from former England great Stuart Broad, who called Pakistan a poor team. And unfortunately, their complete inability to capitalize on those early overcast conditions, combined with that batting collapse, is kind of validating Broad's criticism right now.
But look, there is a sliver of hope, and it ties right back to our star performer. A dry pitch could actually aid Usman's spin even further later in the game. But, and this is a massive but, that entirely depends on Pakistan surviving their second innings long enough to give him an actual total to defend.
So I'll leave you with this. With sunny skies on the horizon and a 195-run mountain to climb, can one man's brilliant, disciplined 5-wicket haul spark the resilience needed for a truly historic turnaround? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the pitch to see if Pakistan's batters can finally match Ali Usman's masterclass.